There are some major differences between A55 and Galaxy S23, and being a year-old device, I still think it can easily hold against the newly launched A55. You might be surprised to see the budget phone holding against the flagship of last year. There is a big reason I said at the start. It is a progress in the design of Galaxy A55. Samsung just listened to the users and they gave us the major design difference this year. First, the glass back on A55, which was first introduced with the A54, but last year we got plastic frame. This year, Samsung changed it to aluminum on A55, completing a design for a budget phone. Galaxy S23 also features a glass back and aluminum frame, being a flagship phone. Now there are some noticeable difference in the weight of the phone. Yes, A55 is bigger in size and comes with the 213 grams of weight, which is a lot more than Galaxy S23 Ultra, which is only at 168 grams. If weight is your priority, then Galaxy S23 is much better. Also, if you notice or not, Samsung used the best glass of time on Galaxy S23, which is Gorilla Glass Victus 2 compared to Victus Plus used in the A55. So we can see a better durability measures on S23. The water resistance is also better on S23, which is IP68 compared to IP67. Overall, for a design, S23 being a flagship device wins here. This is where we see the preference, and there are some important things you guys may forget while checking the displays. Galaxy A55 is way bigger than the Galaxy S23. It came with the 6.6 inches Super AMOLED 120Hz 1080p display, whereas S23 came with a 6.1 inches Dynamic AMOLED 120Hz 1080p display. Now things comes down to your preference, but S23 is better although it is smaller in size. Also, if you look at the peak brightness, we may see some big differences. The claimed brightness on Galaxy A55 is 1000 nits, compared to S23 1750 nits. If you guys notice or not, being a budget phone, Galaxy A55 came with the thick bezels around the display, whereas S23 came with one of the smallest bezels and easily give a premium look. Now it comes down to your preference. If you think the bigger the better, then A55 is the way to go. The main sensor on both phones are about the same. Both A55 and Galaxy S23 came with a 50 megapixel main sensor, but Galaxy A55 50 megapixel capabilities are locked, which I'll explain in a moment, but first, let's talk about other sensors. The ultra-wide sensor is also same, but the telephoto sensor is where the game started. We got a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto sensor on S23, and sadly, but it is true, there is no telephoto sensor on A55, being a budget phone. As I said in my last video, Samsung only power flagship devices with the telephoto sensors. Although we do have a 5 megapixel macro on A55, but honestly, that 5 megapixel is just useless. It is better to get telephoto sensor, or we are good with the 2 sensors, not 3. There was a reason I said A55 50 megapixel is locked. The video capabilities are poor on A55. You can only record 4K 30fps on Galaxy A55. It is 2024. Seriously, Samsung should give us at least 4K 60fps on Galaxy A55. But if we look at the Galaxy S23, you got every possible video options. Here, even Galaxy S23 is capable of recording 8K 30fps and 4K 60fps obviously. Also, A55 came with a 32 megapixel selfie shooter. Still, no 4K 60fps, but Galaxy S23 with a 12 megapixel selfie shooter can record 4K 60fps, a clear winner, the Galaxy S23. If you look at both devices' processors, you can easily draw a conclusion who wins and who lose. The biggest reason of getting a 4K 30fps on A55 is mainly because the processor is not capable of recording 4K 60fps. Galaxy S23 came with one of the best processor at the time of launch, and even still, it is far better than any budget processor from other companies. Even Exynos 1480 used in Galaxy A55 cannot stand against the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Galaxy A55 scored 1161 single-core score and 3398 multi-core score, and Galaxy S23 scored 1883 single-core score and 4974 multi-core score. Despite using AMD RDNA GPU, you won't see big performance compared to the Galaxy S23. In other words, you can compare this processor with other budget processors like Snapdragon 778G or similar budget processors, since Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is far from its reach. Although in a day-to-day usage, you won't feel much difference until you start playing games or do some heavy tasks. This is where one got a real chance to win, where Galaxy A55 came with a way bigger battery compared to the S23. A55 came with a 5000 mAh battery, same as last year A54, which got the best battery numbers with the 1080p display. But the Galaxy S23 came with the 3900 mAh battery. Now there are a few things to consider. First, the display size. S23 is quite small compared to the A55, so the size is also a major part of battery life. And second, the power efficiency of a processor. Now, I think Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is far better than the Exynos 1480 when it comes to power efficiency. Exynos processors are always power hungry and gets heat up. But Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is much better, and even in some cases, better than Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 used in Galaxy S24 series. The charging speed on both phones are exactly the same, 25 watt of fast charger. Obviously, having a smaller battery, S23 will get charged quickly. And there is a big downside of A55. Despite using a glass back on A55, there is no wireless charging on Galaxy A55. But S23 came with a 15 watt of wireless charging. Being a year-old device, Galaxy S23, it came with the last year software but will be updated. I'll talk about what features it will get, but first, Galaxy A55 came with the latest One UI 6.1, same as S24 series. But did you guys know there is no AI features available on A55, being a budget phone, where as per expectations and even Samsung claims, Galaxy S23 series may see some of the AI features with the new update, which is great news. Samsung is also intended to give us a 4 years of OS update on A55, which is more than enough. As if they give us a 7 years of OS update like the S24 series, it will not be possible for the budget processors to run for this long, and even last year Samsung didn't claim 7 years for S23 either. From S24 onwards, we will see 7 years of OS updates. I know, there is a massive difference when we see the launch price of both phones. S23 launch price was $799, being a premium flagship, but A55 is not coming to the US, but in European region, it cost around 479 euros. Almost half of the price of Galaxy S23. But here's a catch. You may find some deals on Galaxy S23 where you can save some money while buying the Galaxy S23 instead of A55 and can enjoy a flagship phone. The storage options are quite similar, 128 gigs base variant with the 8 gigs of RAM, but A55 came with the 12 gigs of RAM with the 256 gigs of storage. Although there is no 12 gigs on S23, but you can get a 512 gigs of storage option. And yeah, the SD card slot is still there on A55. There are two things where you should consider the Galaxy A55. The first is the display size. If you want a bigger display, then there is no choice but to go with the A55 or look over Galaxy S23 Plus, which is even more expensive. And second is the price. If you're on a budget, you should go with the A55. It is a good budget device with a premium feeling in hand, and you may see a better battery life on the A55. Apart from that, Galaxy S23 is superior in every other aspect: the performance, cameras, software, and more. If you don't have any size preference, then S23 is a good option. If not, then look over to S23 Plus. With that said, if you like the content, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.